In this demo, we're going to talk about how to build a scrollable table. So now we're going to go back to our data set, hopefully a data set you're very familiar with. It has our years, our total tornadoes in January through December, what those tornado values were. And what we're going to do is build a scrollable table. And by scrollable table, I mean, let's just jump back to this real quick. If I look at all this data right here, it's a lot of data, and this is actually our backend database. We want to create a way for our users to scroll through this data without having to use this big honking database. We can achieve that using the form controls we described so far. So what I'm going to do is go over to the Scrollable Table tab where I've already built this functionality. And you can see we have the years here, 1950 is our starting year, and the total tornadoes. And as I scroll down, you can see that the values scroll with it. So this is a scrollable table, and it's happening with no VBA automatically with formulas. So it's very, very neat. And I also like to point out, I call this a reusable component because it doesn't take very long to build, and you can see that I'm using it here on this type of data. I can use it on anything. So you'll see how versatile and easy it is in a second when we create our own. Now the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new tab. And I'm going to start over here in cell B3, and I'm just going to type a 1 in here. And that's just sort of demarcating where I want this to start. I'll go over to my developer tab, and I'm going to click Insert, and I'll click this scroll bar here, and I'll draw a horizontal one. And it doesn't have to be perfect the first time you do it. You can always go back. So I have my scroll bar here, and what I'm going to do is hook it to this cell B3. So remember how to do that. I have it selected. I'm going to go into the formula bar. I'll type in equals, and then I'll select cell B3. So I'll hit enter here. You see it starts out as 0, but if we scroll down, it goes 1 through 4. So let's turn it back to a 1 here. And in cell B4, what I'm going to do is type in equals, and I'll select cell B3, and I'll just type in +1. So now that equals 2. I'll take that cell that I've just created and drag it down to how many items I want to show, probably 10. So we have 7 here. Let's drag it down 3 more. There we have 10. So watch what happens when I scroll. You can see that the values change accordingly. So what's happening is I am changing this value, which is hooked to this cell, and then all these values here, these increasing numbers, they're all hooked to the cells above it. So 15 is 15 because this is 14, we add 1. 16 adds 1 to this. So you can see it's all interconnected. So the next thing I'm going to do is go back here. I'll make this a 1 again just for demonstration purposes. Here in cell C3, I'm going to use these values on the side in an index function, and they're going to help us pull the records at those indices. So here's what I mean. I'll type in equals here on C3. I'll type in index, open parenthesis. Now I am using the data set we used before, so we're going to treat it like a table. I'm going to type in data here. That's our Excel table named data. And here what I'm going to do is I want to pull the year out first, so I'll put in the year here. And then under this row num, I'm going to select this 1 over here. I'll hit enter. You see it pulled back 1950. Now I want to pull back the total tornadoes. In cell D3, I'll type in index. I'll type in data, open square bracket. We see total tornadoes, third one down. I'll select that, close the square bracket, hit a comma, select cell B3 again, close the parenthesis. So now we have the year that we're interested in, the total tornadoes. It's very easy from this point. All I need to do is select cell C3 through cell D3, and I'll just double click to drag it all the way down. So you see now this is pulling from record item 2, record item 3, record item 4, etc. And I bet you know what's going to happen as I scroll down. You see that it's going through the list. Now what do you think is going to happen if I keep going? I get these ref errors. And the reason I get these ref errors is because I'm pulling from record 46. So there is no record 46. That's beyond the size of the table. So I'll scroll all the way back up. Now see what happens. We have a 0 here. We don't really like either of those things. So what we want to do is change the form control properties. So I'm going to right click on the form control and click Format Control. That's going to bring up the Format Control dialog box with the Control tab selected. So under minimum value, I'm going to put in a 1 here. Under maximum value, we need to think about this for a second. So I am showing 10 items, and there are 45 items. So I don't want to put a 45 here as the maximum, because if I put a 45 here, I could keep scrolling until that top item here, so you see this is a 0. If I keep scrolling, that could go to 45, and all the ones under it, 46, 47, 48, there's going to be no records there. So we actually want the 45 to stop at the bottom here. So here's how to think of this. We have one cell that's connected, so that's this B3 here, and we have 10 items we're showing. So the typical formula for this is going to be the total amount of items, that's 45, less the amount of items that we're showing, that's 10. So 45 less 10 is 35. However, we are connected to one of these items, so we're going to add 1 back. I know it's a little confusing, but here we're going to have 36. So we're going to go from 1 to 36. And you'll see that that is the correct formula in 1 second, so I'll hit OK here. And I'm going to scroll all the way down, and you see it stops at 45. So for good measure, I'm going to show you what happens when you change it to the maximum value. I'll hit Control-click, go to Properties. Remember, that's the other way to do it. Under the maximum value, I'm going to type in 45 right here. I'll hit OK. And I'll scroll down, you see it causes these ref errors. So according to the formula, it should only be 36. Now, if that's a little confusing, don't worry, you can be wrong a few times. I had to play with it until I came up with that formula, so it's still somewhat confusing to me. You see it's very easy to change, so trial and error. So I'll hit OK there, and you can see it goes down to 45. Now, the only thing left here is to actually just style the table, right? So I'll type in year, total tornadoes here. And what I like to do is, unless I need these for some reason, let's say they're this is sorted and we're doing top 10 or bottom 10, I don't really need them. You can hide them, you can color them. I'm going to hide them here. And then I'll hold Control-click on this scroll bar here just to sort of size it up and make it look fancy. I'll make these right aligned here. And I usually like to put a border under it to make sure it appears like a table. And then here, just to set it off a little bit, I'll make everything white. And remember, you can always hide grid lines on your dashboard if you're trying to do something bigger. But as you can see, this actually works very well. And look how quickly it took to make, and look how nice and fast it works without any VBA at all.